Welcome to Featured Artists Live, a weekly show to discuss and listen to your music. With help from my other YouTuber buddies, we hope to give you words of encouragement, guidance, or simply just enjoy your wonderful creations. I'd like to thank our sponsor DistroKid, all of the wonderful artists, and all of you for watching. Now, let's get on with the show. Hi folks, I'm Mike, and of course, I hope you're well. Nice to see you all here in the chat for another Featured Artist Live. I think we're on episode 24 here. We've got 3 more songs for you to listen to from the community. And of course, I have some awesome guests with me as well to critique that music. I'm told that one of them has decided he's going to be a bad cop today. I'll let you decide which one is a bad cop out of the two. Hopefully, he'll really enjoy that role very much because, you know, it's always a bit of fun, isn't it, to have someone who's an ignoramus. Now, let's have a hello and a thank you to our sponsors here. distrokid.com VIP/creative source is the link that you should follow if you want to get 7% off of their wonderful service. I get a little kickback from that, but it's at no extra cost to you. So if you haven't released any of your music yet, then sign up there. It's really cheap service and you can do loads of awesome things with it, which I will discuss later on in the show. I do want to say hi to a few people who are already in the chat there. We have the wonderful, in fact, he's a bit of a superstar, to be honest with you, Mimo Japan. People have been talking about him in my Cakewalk Facebook group, just about how awesome he is. He's in there 24/7, so if you've got a problem with Cakewalk, just go to the group anytime. He'll answer you within about 2 minutes, and he knows the answer to everything there is to know. He just knows it, like off the top of his head, seemingly. He's a superstar. I'm glad he's here as the moderator, and so do not piss him off because he will get rid of you just like that. I had to do it with someone last week. They were being a bit of a pain and they were gone. Let's make sure we don't have a repeat of any of that. Nice to see you anyway here, Mimo, as usual, and thanks for all of your service. Nice to see Sausage in here. Always good to see Sausage from Canberra. And also we have, well, I'll say your username, DDII3, DDI111, I don't know. Is it Doug? Dan? I've forgotten. Oh no, how embarrassing. Nick Ellis, I got a Christmas card from Nick today. How nice was that? It took like almost, 6 weeks to get here or something like that. Thank you so much, Nick. That is the first time I've had actual physical mail from one of my viewers. It was very, very pleasant. I was so excited about that. Nice to see Keonra in here. Somebody sharing my weather because they live very, very, like within 1 or 2 kilometres of me. Always nice to see you in here, Keonra. And also let's say hello to the Lily Pillies who we featured on the show just a few weeks ago. Always nice to see you in here as well. And 1 or 2 more. Let's say hi to Doug. Always good to see Doug in here. He is another one of our moderators. And I think that's enough of the highs for now. I'm going to jump straight in and say hi to one of my most wonderful guests on this show that you're ever likely to see. He doesn't hold back. He's always full of the joys of spring. And his name, of course, is Marlon. Marlon, how are you? How you doing, buddy? Oh, did I mute you? Did I mute you or did you mute yourself? Hey.
No, I muted myself because I was swearing. I was really thinking you were going to introduce Ed with that introduction. So.
No, I know. I think Ed thought that as well. Yeah, see, I was teasing him a little bit. I was just giving him a little tease. Yeah, okay. So, Marlon, tell me about. First of all, let me ask, because if you don't know, Marlon's got an awesome YouTube channel. You should follow the links in the description down below. If you haven't subscribed to his channel already, it's brilliant because he does really focus on plugins. Marlon, what have you done this week? What have you done? What's your last video?
My last video was a nice. I have to look it up. Was a plugin to make any other plugin multi-band. It's kind of nice. Multi-band. It's sort of a
please
a
explain.
Plugin which can insert other plugins. Kind of nice, actually. Pretty nice.
I'm struggling to figure out why. Maybe I should just watch the video. Maybe I should follow the link in the description.
No, you can make plugin stacks within that, and you can, for instance, if you have a compressor which is not multi-band, you can insert 3 instances and set each plugin to a separate band and have multi-band with a plugin.
Oh, that is a really good idea. Oh, I like that very much. What's that called?
But yeah, it does not only do one plugin, you can make stacks of plugins, so it's really versatile in that regard.
Awesome.
I like that. Yeah,
I might steal that idea. I might contact them and say, hey, could I do a review on that? Sounds awesome.
Well, I think I made the only video on it, so I think they will be happy.
Oh, great. Awesome. What's it called again? Yep. What's the plugin called?
Oh, God, he asked me questions.
He's on the spot now, isn't he? Oh, this is like not being able to remember your wife's birthday or something.
No, it's called Effect Grid, so it's not really the most engaging name of a plugin, but it's called Effect Grid.
Okay, sounds good.
And from the from the plugin builder, Effect Grid by Effect Grid.
Now you are in Holland, in lockdown at the moment. I am in a completely different part of the world, in Australia. Opposite, you're in winter, I'm in summer. It's very, very warm here. I like to drink a lot. And when I drink, it sounds like I'm just about to do an advert, doesn't it? I like to drink ginger beer. Talking about ginger beards, let's bring on Ed Thorne. Ed, how you doing?
Smooth, Mike. Smooth.
What a segue. What a segue.
Smooth transition. No, I knew you had been too nice about me to introduce me on that last one. So it was obviously Marlon first. That plugin sounds interesting, Marlon, and it sounds very much like the Wave Studio Rack, which is very good.
It is actually. The only difference is that this plugin will load any plugin and not just Waves plugins.
Ah, okay.
Such a good idea. I mean, the creative possibilities of that. Now, normally, if you were going to do something like that, I have attempted to do that without a plugin, and usually I'm sending things off to different buses and things and filtering those buses by frequencies, just in case you're in the chat and you're thinking, how could you do it without the plugin? I did have a question in my Facebook group, actually, this week, what do you use buses for? And I wanted to see what people use buses for, and nobody actually said that, I don't think, so I'll put that one down to Marlon. He said that. I guess. Ed, you've decided to be bad cop this week. You were saying before the show. So what I want to do is do things a little bit different. I'll be Mr. In Between where I am at the moment, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Marlon and I'm going to say, Marlon, I want you to tell me what you like about this track that we've just listened to. Just that, right? And then I'm going to go to you and we're going to say, Ed, I want to hear what you don't like about this.
All right. Well, it's been emotional, guys. Thanks for having me on the show all these times. This will be my last appearance. Happy 2020.
Oh, dearie me. Honestly, I know that you guys are always very, very fair with your comments. And somebody said to me the other day, I think it was one of the artists who's been featured on this show, when I told them who the guests were, they were very delighted that it was you two. They said, oh, Marlon and Ed always have really great opinions that they share, very educational and all that. Maybe they're talking about another Marlon and Ed, I don't know, but probably they were talking about you. So we're going to go on straight on to the first track. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, I think, that if you have not submitted a track so far to this show, then do follow the link in the description down below and you can submit your track there. And also, if you would like to subscribe to one of these two guys either side of me here, then please do follow the links in the description for that and subscribe to their awesome YouTube channels. The links for the featured artists for this show are also in the description down below. There's lots of reasons to go down to the description. Make sure you do it. And also, if you're watching live, make sure you hit the live button. I think I've said everything I'm supposed to say at the beginning of the show now. This first song is from an artist called 15th Bend, okay, and it's called Memories. Let's just chuck that up there just so we know which one's written. So I think that 15th Bend is new to recording and takes a fairly simple approach. Keep things simple, just a couple of chord progressions. He or she, because I don't know if it's he or she because they're hiding their identity a little bit. Is is saying that they are a newbie to song structure. They just draw out chord progressions in their DAW, which is Ableton Live. I don't think we've featured anyone who uses Ableton Live in all of the 24 episodes that we've done so far. And then they gradually layer each instrument. Now, in quotes, this is from the artist. For beats, drums, I use a combination of plugins, Captain Beat and MT Power drum kit, and hand-drawn MIDI notes to keep up with something simple. Yet that can do a good job as well. I am still struggling with my mixing, since I always find something off when I play it on different devices, my home theatre, studio monitors, car speakers, etc. I'll talk about that after we've listened to the song. Actually, I want to hear your guys' opinion on something like that.
There's a great solution for that.
Well, yes, there are some good solutions for that. You're right. I'll let you talk about that, Ed, after we listen to the song. So this song is about memories, happy and sad, and all that we experience in our life. Let's have a listen to it. Yeah, I mean, we're off to a great start. And as I promised, the way we're going to do this, and I'm deadly serious about this, is we are going to go to Marlon first. And Marlon, I would like you to tell me, what did you like about this track?
Oh, just going out of focus, don't I?
You went out of focus just at the right
Oh,
time.
so nice. Oh, here I am.
Yes,
Hello.
definitely.
First of all, is that guitar, is that programmed?
I don't
Are
think
you
so.
serious?
Play-
Was that crazy?
No, that's not. Just
No,
the
I
drums
know.
are.
Just at the start, I was thinking, hey, maybe this is MIDI, but at the end, was like, nah, this is not programmed. Well, the guitar solo, of course, is really shredding. I like that. It was really, really, really sweet. The ending was surprising to me. Yeah, the ending of the song was like, oh, okay. That's a
After the
different
break,
ending. I
when
like
it
that.
went into the, I think.
Yeah, the break was sweet as well. I was thinking, first I was thinking, hey, this song is pretty short, but then the second part happened and it actually elevated. So that's good. I did not actually. The mixing was something mentioned, but I thought everything was pretty well balanced. To be honest, I didn't hear any weird things on my headphones. So whatever doubts there are with mixing, I think it translates well on these headphones anyway. So that's good.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah, because the artist was obviously saying that they didn't feel confident about the mixing. They always hear something, but I think it's true that for all of us, you know, that you know, every time you listen to your mix, you're always going to find something to tweak. You've just got to find a cutoff point.
Yeah, and besides that, if you listen on different devices, your mix will sound different on all devices. It's key that the main elements will translate, right? So on small speakers, you will not have low end. On cheap old speakers, you will not have proper high end. So
Let me
the
ask you a
average which
question.
counts.
Let me ask you a question as if I don't know the answer. So for anyone who's doing this, so what happens is you've got your mix, you're in your studio, sounds good, and you think, well, you know what, 60% of people are going to listen to this on their phone without headphones, and you play it through the phone. It's got no low end in it. What do you do?
If you know what the end listening device will be, you can tailor your mix somewhat to that. The most important thing is, even with phones, the very low sub lows aren't there, but there is some low end. So if you make sure your entire mid range is fine, usually it will translate. But also, if you use an iPhone or something like this, iPhones use a very terrible limiter on the sound. If you listen to it, it will always sound pretty on iPhones these days. It's so limited, so squashed with any music. So
I guess
you got to live with it.
I guess what I'm suggesting here is that there can be a problem if you go from one device to another, that you'll be continually adjusting your mix because you're continually listening to or hearing the limitations of a device. So in other words, I'm just trying to warn people to be careful to not listen on a device like this and then start boosting all the low end, because it really doesn't matter, because the speakers, if you like, within these devices can't play that very low end for you, so you're going to keep boosting it, and then when you play it on something else, it's going to sound terrible. So
that's why you need to listen to your mix on multiple devices, or use something like Soundworks or whatever to get a general idea of how your mix will translate on multiple devices.
And I like this idea from Mimo Japan there. Adding a tad of an octave up to the bass is... I've thought about that solution in the past. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sure. I actually made a video about that, how to make your bass heard on small speakers. It's just lifting the range a bit higher. You can do it with an octave, you can do it with saturation, you can do it with EQ even, but it depends a bit on the original source. But also don't over focus on it, because then you will shift your entire mix to a higher range, which can sound really muddy if you're not careful.
Yep. Fair enough. Let's go over to Evil Ed Thorne. Ed, I'm going to ask you your thoughts on the track at the moment. I do want to say that Ferren in the chat had a little something controversial to say. Ferren was saying, I like it, but maybe a bit more time should be spent on the music production and less on the video. What do you reckon? What you respond to Ferren there, Ollie? You be.
I would like to hear one of his songs featured on the show in response to that.
Burn.
Sorry about that, Ferren. I didn't ask him to be such an arsehole. But anyway, as promised, we've heard some good stuff about this track. It was getting quite a bit of praise. What would you fix about this track, Ed?
Well, I completely disagree with everything Marlon said.
Oh, really?
No. Quite a bit came from that little analysis you guys mentioned. I love the track. I mean, Pink Floyd, David Gilmour. Oh my God, incredible!
You can't say that. I don't care about what you loved about the track. You're here to tell us what was wrong with the track. Okay, so let's hear it.
I'm starting with okay. So you want me to tell all negatives, right?
Yep,
okay.
yep.
So my apologies. 15th bend, no positives allowed. But there are many in the track. I think you should take a lot of confidence from the fact that you'd said you weren't feeling too confident with the mix, but as Marlon said, the balance was good. A couple of things in the low end, the synth pad seems like it's completely flat and there's not been any EQ to it. Maybe consider putting a high pass filter on the low end so to provide more space for the bass, which could possibly come up in the mix slightly. And the high pass filter on the synth pad would help free up some space for it. So then it's going to become more prominent in the mix naturally. You might also consider a little bit of 3K on the bass to give it a bit more attack and therefore presence as well. That can help with the mobile phone translation. And in terms of drums, as a drummer, it's hard to get a good drum sound with programmed drums unless you're buying into some expensive samples. Even then, you have to treat them. There's very few samples that come processed with reverbs and things on them to give them a thick sound. One bit of advice for using programmed drums would just be to send them or put a bus compressor on the drum. If it's just one MIDI drum track, put a bus compressor on it, such as the Brainworks Townhouse bus compressor, which is easily my favorite plug-in compressor, and squash the drums into it, and that'll really create a big, thick, juicy, beefy sound. That would be my advice for programmed drums. In terms of what else you guys talked about, there is a software called Sound ID Reference, which used to be called Sonarworks, but I believe they've rebranded to Sound ID. And this, in a nutshell, you measure your speakers in your room, and you basically set a calibration. It sets a calibration which is the opposite to the EQ curve your frequencies produce in your room. So it takes into account reflections, the natural EQ of the room, hot spots, dead spots, and so on. Creates an opposite, so in theory you get a flat listening experience in your room. There's also headphone calibration profiles as well. Some work better than others. But in the new version, in Sound ID Reference, there is a reference tool where they've measured like dozens and dozens and thousands of consumer devices, including mobile phones, laptop speakers, car stereos, different sound systems such as MS-10s and TVs even. Loads of things that you're consuming. Apple AirPods as well. Loads of things your audience might be listening to your music on. And they've created a profile for each one of these. So you can basically listen to how your track would sound in theory on those devices. And it's a really interesting experience. I happen to have a video about it on my channel. Can I post it in the chat?
Post it in the chat there. Yeah, I've got one too. I think I mentioned the same thing in my video as well, but I'd forgotten about it until you mentioned it because I've never used it since I did the review.
There we go. But I don't know how to do that on this end. How do I do that? Scrap that idea. I'll save everyone the hardship.
Go over to Ed's channel, right, and then go to the video section, and then there's a search thing at the top, and put in there Sound ID, all one word, and you'll find it. Go over to Ed's channel, right? And,
there we go. So I've had to go on the. There we go. Beautiful.
Thank you so much for that.
Thanks,
okay, now I'm going to put my 2 cents in here for that track. So I'm always cautious about instrumental tracks. I think that it's sometimes a hard ask to get people to keep it interesting for, however, 4 minutes or so, something like that, without any lyrics and vocals going on these days. So I thought that this actually did a really good job. It did something which we've been talking about on the show with some of our other guests, which is the idea of through each section adding something new, a new layer, keeping it changing all the time so that the ears are continually surprised. And as Marlon mentioned, that little break towards the end was a little surprising. And then somebody rightfully said it was very David Gilmour kind of solo, at the end, which was good. If I might take the role of Ed for a moment, the only thing that I would say, and I'm going to say this not just for this track, but for a number of tracks that I receive that get entered for this show, is you can get sound and you can get chord progressions and all that, but with no lyrics. Focus a little bit on melody sometimes, like actually crafting a melody which someone after the fact could re-sing that melody like it would be stuck in their head, not all the way through, but I'm going to be a bit unkind here to 15th Ben and say I love the sound of that. I could have that on, I could be playing it, but now that I've heard it 2 or 3 times, I could not sing back any of the melodies back to you from that piece of music. So I'd say that as a bit of a challenge for yourself, because you're obviously quite talented on the guitar especially, but also I actually think your mix was really, really good, and I don't think it's something that I could really pick apart very much. So that's me being helping Ed out there, being a bit of an ass. But thank you so much for submitting that. Enjoyed it very much, and I of course would encourage you to release it. And if you did release it, you should of course release it through DistroKid, and let's hear about that right now. So if you do follow the link in the description down below, it's going to take you to a special page on DistroKid with this yellow banner at the top. That banner is letting you know that you're going to get a further 7% discount off your first year if you sign up here. And let's face it, it's already very cheap. If we scroll down, we can see that a year's membership is $19.99 per year for an unlimited number of albums and songs. And so long as it's your own music, there are no extra charges, and you get to keep all of the royalties from the various platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, Pandora, Amazon, Instagram, Tidal, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and more. Okay, so sorry, we've got a private chat going on here, and Marlon's making me giggle.
Seen it.
But he's a private chat, and I can't say what he said. Anyway, moving on, we're going on to our second track. Now, I think that the artist for this track is actually in the chat, and his name is Martin Hammer. Martin, I sent a couple of emails through to Martin just to get a little bit more info about the track, and I didn't get any response. So I'm going to invite Martin to tell us all about his track in the chat as we're going. I believe he's here, as I say. So the song is by Martin Hammer, and it's called Break the Chains. And the only thing I've got is from the initial submission, which was to say the challenge was to get all of the 30 plus vocal tracks where I wanted them. Since I record in GarageBand, on iPad, I had to make a lot of merge decisions early on. The song is mastered by Lander, and the drums were from Glenn Wellman from Fiverr. Ed, have you thought of offering your services on Fiverr as a drummer?
No.
Moving on from there. Apart from that, Martin did it all. I've used Fiverr for a few things. Sorry, Martin, you're saying what I answered you? Oh, sorry, Martin. Maybe it's gone through to my junk mail or something like that. Anyway, but if you want to provide a little bit more info, if people want to ask Martin questions while we're listening to his track, then please do so in the chat down below. Let's have a listen to, as I say, this is called Break the Chains.
I'm gonna break the spell, cut myself loose. I wanna break the change, live like I choose. What is the meaning, living like I do? Gotta find a reason, except for pleasing you. Feel like an hamster, running in a wheel. I can't remember signing on this deal. Gotta break out and run.
Wow, come on. Surely somebody must have been tapping their foot there. I'm going to go to Ed first of all. Ed, remember, you're the bad cop. You said you wanted to be a bad cop, so go ahead. Be a bad
I'm regretting
cop.
that decision. I'm struggling to say bad things today.
Come on.
People in the chat.
You're a northerner. You must find grim things to say.
Actually, a few things. So Ricky made a good point that he would have liked a 4-bar intro, which I kind of agree with because it is kind of straight in and it's pretty full on. But that grabs your attention straight away, and within a few bars, my feet were tapping as well. Structure-wise, it moves quickly and it moves nicely, and I didn't get bored. But then when it got to the solo, there was 4 bars of a guitar solo, and I was thinking, come on, I want more of this. And then it went straight into another chorus. I was slightly disappointed there wasn't more guitar solo. I was trying to listen out for these 30 channels of vocals, and there was some good vocal doublings, very low in the mix. I'd have to have a listen again to see if, listen out for the harmonies, because I was listening out for other things. But yeah. Anyway, observation. Good hook interlay in the lead vocals in places, particularly.
What's his positive comments? What's his positive comments?
Bad cop. Be a bad cop.
Okay. So with all of these tracks that are featured on the show, in my experience, I think it's often quite obvious what type of instrumentalist has produced the track. And you can tell if it's a singer, and you can always tell when it's a guitarist, and you can always tell when it's a drummer, because they're the best mixers. Now, I think this guy is a bass guitar player.
You think he's a bass guitar player? No way.
Yep. Now, because the bass sound was good.
Let us know, Martin. Martin.
I felt like the bass could be a bit warmer and a bit fuller in the low end. However, this is a great example of how to EQ the bass to get it to sit well in a mix, and sit well in a mix. It's going to translate. You're going to be able to hear bass on a mobile phone with this mix. However, in my headphones, I wasn't getting loads of the warmth in the low end, but it's got that Iron Maiden kind of sound, so it's quite clicky and attacky, and it's not necessarily that kind of style. So yeah, I mean, I liked it. Wasn't quite sure about the drum sound. I got a feeling they were all sampled rather than organic.
Oh God, you may have just offended a drummer there. Doug is saying poor Ed. Doug, I know you're a moderator, but I'm going to ban you if you show sympathy to Ed here. I'm kidding. He asked for this role. No, and what I think is obviously a great compliment to Martin is that Ed's evidently struggling to find too many negatives here, some constructive criticism. But I think you actually enjoyed that track, didn't you, Ed?
Yeah, right up my street.
Okay, let's move over to Marlon. Marlon, I get a feeling that you would have a lot to say about this track on both sides, but could you tell me what you liked about
it? First of all, I really hope that the artist name will also be Hammer, because it really sounds
well,
because it really is a hammering song.
I do believe the spelling is Hammer.
Hammer. Yeah, but it's awesome, man. It's an awesome name. I get all sorts of flashbacks to late 80s rock, like Bon Jovi and even Alice Cooper, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
To really fit in that type of music, really the late 80s rock, art rock, maybe even a bit. That's what I have written down. Actually,
you've written down.
I
my
liked
cat
it.
Hated it. My goldfish loved it, and my dog is undecided.
No, my dog is asleep. Actually, at this moment, that's good.
Okay,
I really enjoyed the track. Actually, it felt a bit short. I would have liked 1 minute more, something like that. It was really short.
It was.
I have no idea how long was it actually.
It was. I don't know how. Now you're asking me the difficult questions, aren't you? I don't know, but it was short anyway. But listen, look, I'm going to say it's a little. Well, this is going to come off as a little bit not nice, but it's refreshing. I get a lot of songs which are longer than they should be. If you get my drift. I think I didn't used to be like this because I write long songs myself. They always come out like 5 or 6 minutes for me naturally, but I always think it's better really if you leave people wanting more. I'd rather that someone went, oh, that was very short. Let's have a listen again. Anyway, thanks so much, Marlon, there for well, it was kind of a good.
One thing which could work actually for this song is actually ending with after the last chorus with a like a 1 minute guitar solo, vamp out, fade out, slowly fade out, or
really?
an extended version. Okay. I think it will actually work.
Thank you, Keanu. 2 minutes and 13 seconds. I don't know where you got that information from. Perhaps you followed the link in the description down below. Thank you so much for that. I think don't you think a fade out would be a bit cheesy, Marlon? I don't know.
I think it would fit the style. Actually, it would fit this song and this style.
You mean like an 80s rock kind of style, which lots of people said that in the comments, and I definitely felt it was. But yeah, I liked it as it was. Look, Martin, don't listen to these guys. I don't think you should change anything about it. I'm not really a fan of 80s style rock. I wasn't at the time, and still not really now. But I will say that I really enjoyed this track. I just think it just had energy. It had melody. We talked about this, didn't we? We talked about this. Look, Marlon, can you tell me how the melody went on the chorus of this song? You've only heard it once. It's been a few minutes.
The melody on the chorus.
I'll give you a hint. It went.
I can actually. Yeah, that actually reminded me a bit of the pre-chorus of Poison of Alice Cooper. Na 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 na. Right?
Oh, okay.
A bit like that style.
There you go. You did remember the
melody. I remember it, so that's good.
Yeah, that's really, really good. As for some standout things in there, I'm a sucker. I don't mind. I know it's a little bit dated, but the stereo panning of the guitars, like as he was doing his lick, it was going from left to right. When you've got some headphones on, I mean, it's just fun for the ears. Didn't mind that at all. And I thought the vocals were just excellent. I didn't really hear 30 vocal tracks in there at all. But what I did like about the vocals, actually, which wasn't very 80s, was they were very dry. And I thought one of you was going to say, oh, there should be more reverb on the vocals. I like dry vocals, and I think sometimes that can help to keep the track sounding really, really tight, which I think it did in this case. You can go
there is a lot of doubling going on and a lot of backing tracks which fills the space anyway, so it doesn't need reverb.
Good stuff there. And talking about good stuff, let's hear about how easy it is to actually release your songs through DistroKid. Let's listen to that. If you want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now, the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid, and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music. Okay, so thank you so much, DistroKid, for sponsoring the show and providing a great service, which we all love, don't we, Marlon? So anyway, moving on to the third track today. Now, before I talk about the third track, I just want to mention, in case you guys at home don't get to listen till the end, we've got a show next week on Thursday, Friday, depending which part of the world you're on, and it's going to be semi-live, meaning that the actual show itself is going to be pre-recorded. It will just be me being a good cop and a bad cop, both at the same time. But I will be live in the comments. I am going to be on a beach somewhere. I'm sorry, Marlon. Marlon, could you just stop in the private chat? You're putting me off, and it's not fair to the audience that I can't share what you just said, which is just funny. Anyway.
I think you should.
No, I don't think I should. The show's not rated for that. Now, listen, so I will be here next week, and my video will be going out next week on Tuesday. As always, I've never missed a week, or I've never not released a video, at least one video a week in the last 3 years. No, next week is no exception, but I have pre-recorded it, and it's on Tuesday, and I'm reviewing a microphone which comes from here in Australia, an Australian microphone, which is a clone of an AKG C12. Do you know how much the C12 costs at the moment, roughly in American dollars, Ed?
Nope.
About over 6.5 or so thousands of dollars. It's on special at the moment. On Sweetwater. So I'm doing a clone of that, which costs actually 6% of that price.
6% of that price.
6%, yes, of that price. Around about $400, $430 for a tube condenser multi-patterned microphone.
Actual tubes with a transformer box. And
yes,
everything.
I've taken it apart and looked inside. It's got
not
a
optimistic
tube
for that review. That's how cheap it is.
I've recorded a demo, vocals, guitar, cajon, of course. I know you guys love cajon.
See you later. I'm checking out. See you later. I've lost all respect.
I mic'd up a guitar
That's
cab.
the
I've
hernia
mic'd up a
instrument.
bass. I've mic'd up a bass cab. I've mic'd up a guitar cab.
That's a lot of effort for a microphone.
Yeah, I did all that this week. Yeah.
Wow.
You got inspired.
Even
You
wrote
got inspiration.
Susie,
Can I raise a point for those people who are watching in the chat live or in playback? Just to give Mike some serious credit for being so consistent to do one video a week without missing one for 3 years. He works hard before his holidays to place a video while he's away. So if you think, he's just having a week off, he's not. He's having his holidays, but that means he works double hard the week before and double hard the week after. And I struggle to do 4 videos a month at best. So, hats off to you, man.
Well, in fairness, it's my only job, Ed, but thank you very much for that.
True,
but,
I do have 2 others, so it's difficult.
You do have other responsibilities.
You have a real job, Ed.
But you've got family, which is also another responsibility.
It's true. What I do, the way I've gotten around it and the way I've really built this channel up is to completely ignore my children for the last 3 years. That's how I've got away with it. They don't know who I am anymore, but they can always watch my videos, can't they? But that's how you do it. Just ignore your children and you can have a career.
But if you think one video, Mike, is one video a week is good, Marlon, I believe, pumps a video out every 5 days. Is that still right?
Who's that?
I'm at 2 videos a week right now.
Well, look, let's bring up Pete Johns, who averages more than... Pete Johns from Studio Live today averages more than 7 a week. I don't know... Look, that guy is going to start making videos when he's on the toilet, I reckon, just so he can churn them out a little bit quicker.
He's churning out some different things than a toilet.
Wish I hadn't said that, and I'm going to talk over Marlon now because I know what he's saying. Okay, let's move on to the third track. This has got a great backstory, this track, and I was told by one of my guests last week that I should maybe not say the backstory because it makes people, it sort of skews your opinion of the song. But this is just a great backstory. It's a feel-good backstory of our times, I reckon. This is from someone called Elle's Nest. L's L-E-L-E. I'll put it up on the screen, look, rather than try and say it. Obviously, here we go. Elle's Nest. The song's called Ghost Town, recorded in Cakewalk. Now, these guys used to be, I think they're all guys. I apologise if there's any ladies or theys in the band. This band used to be a band in Coventry. I think they're at uni together in Coventry in the UK back in 1982. And they reformed in 2021, and they now live in different parts of the world. They live in the USA and in Australia. So big step up from Coventry. Sorry, people from Coventry, I know. But anyway, Don't you get sent to Coventry if people don't want to talk to you anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, it's the step before prison.
Deary me. You are the bad cop today, anyway. So this is great, isn't it? They reformed after all of these years. I think I might do this with my old band from the 80s. It's a good idea. And they've reformed over the internet and recorded this song together and some other songs, I think, as well. So the challenges were basically about collaborating remotely. And interestingly, one of the things they mentioned in the email was trying to get the feel of three people being in the same room and playing together, but actually being in different countries and stuff. So that is a challenge anyway, with multi-track recording. They use a service called Slack for communication. I'd never heard of Slack before. Look it up. It's sort of a good way of managing sort of communication remotely and managing projects, I think, as well. Google Drive to share their song bundles, Zoom meetings to do things, and then they use Excel to project manage. It doesn't sound very rock and roll, does it, to say? just one downside there. Sorry, people from Elsness, but really, come on, it's not rock and roll.
So they use spreadsheets to create music.
They use a spreadsheet. I hope at least there were some spelling mistakes in there at least. So anyway,
we know what these guys studied at university in Coventry. Then it was clearly accounting.
Some sort
There's
of
no one else that dull to deal with spreadsheets.
Dear me. So anyway, the drums were MIDI drums played on a trusty Roland TD6V, I don't know what that is, via Behringer UMC 204 HD interface, and using a drum kit which was, I think, was in our first track today, MT Power Drum Kit 2. That's a free drum kit, which I'm sure Ed's never heard of, and Stephen Slate drums for the cymbals. Interesting there, combining two different VST drums so you can get the best sounds of both worlds. I think they're both free ones, just why they've done that. But yeah, interesting idea. Guitars on there, Ovation Celebrity Acoustic, and using what's it called, a Schecter Electric via a solid state Logic SSL 2 Plus interface. So different interfaces happening there because they're in different locations. And then keyboards, Roland A30 with a MIDI track triggering Cakewalk, a VST piano, brass strings on the Yamaha S90 as well. And the bass was played on the keyboard. There's no real bass in there by the looks of it. The vocals were sung through a Shure SM57, which I know people use in the studio, and it's been renowned to have been used. Sorry, not an SM57, an SM58. It's been renowned to be used by Bono from U2, apparently, has often used an SM58, which makes sense with a big, powerful voice like his that you may need to go to a dynamic mic. I've tried to use an SM58 in the studio, and I've never had a good result from it at all. It always sucks for me. I guess it depends on your voice anyway. But let's have a listen and see. That's one of the things you might want to listen out for, Ed, Bad Cop. How do these vocals sound through this SM58? So looking forward to playing this for you guys. Elsness with Ghost Town. I hope I loaded it up. Otherwise, I'm going to play the last song again. Let's have a listen.
Fine by me.
Here we go.
Looking for my ghosts, looking around, walking around the town. They pop out from everywhere, especially from where I least expect them to be. Ghost town, I can hear the sound. Ghost town, no one else can see. I'm looking at pictures, people whose names I can't remember. They try to catch my gaze. I look back at them, but I can't reach them. Ghost town, I can hear the sound. Ghost town, no one else can see. Streets of gold, I'm looking for my ghosts, searching for my lost soul. Ghost town, I can hear the sound. Ghost town, no one else can see.
It's another short one, isn't it, really? And
Yeah.
it seems to be the theme of the show tonight. We're going to go over to a really, really nice person now, and his name is Marlon. Marlon, I'd like to hear.
Wise.
It's going to be an interesting one, this. But, given that the drummer's going last, I think it's going to be interesting anyway. But, Marlon, let's focus on the... I'm going to allow you to say some negatives if you want to, but let's focus on the positives first of all.
First of all, start with negatives. -1, -3, -4. Those are my negatives. This song, I would love to hear this song in a completely 60s vibe and sound. I think that will be awesome because I get Beach Boys vibes from this song. Beach Boys vibes. I think
So
the
you feel like
storytelling is...
You feel like they didn't
Yeah.
go the whole hog? Because someone was mentioning it had a 60s feel. I think Doug was mentioning it had a 60s feel earlier on, and I felt that. But do you think it wasn't quite 60s enough then?
No, it wasn't. I think it could be way. It's a stylistic choice, of course, but I think it would be great. There was a keyboard at I think fairly early in the song. If that was a mellotron, sound, that would be so good.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And with the drums as well, so they are pretty back in the mix right now. But if you make it even more back in the mix, as smaller and really 60s, I think it will really add to the vibe with all that harmony singing going on. I also thought the storytelling in the song was really good, and every little nugget that added, little fill in with keyboard or something like that, really added to keep the engagement going on in this song. So, from songwriting perspective, I think this is a really nice song.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there and not let you say anything else and ruin the pleasant persona that you're projecting tonight, Marlon. It's very.
Thank you.
It's a nice change, I have to say.
It's very unlike me.
But now somebody has to be the bad cop, and look. I'm going to say I think that Ed's not going to have too much of a problem here. I think he's got some things to say. I can see the look on his face. Ed, tell me all about it.
Firstly, I'd like to preface this with two things. Number one, I am uncomfortable with Mark playing the good cop and me playing the bad cop. This doesn't sit well. It's not natural for me. Secondly, the arrangement and the orchestration on this track are genuinely lovely. And to write a song with the kind of musical interplay between the instruments, the storytelling, as Marlon said, to capture that 60s Beach Boys essence is hard. And you guys have done that really well. Turning to the mix, it sounds like everything was recorded through Behringer interfaces. The SM58 is the least of the problems, and it sounds like a very low bit MP3. Now, I'd like to know how this has been bounced.
I said bad cop, not arsehole. Anyway, yeah, go on.
Well, first of all, strange EQ on the guitar on the intro, but then I think that translated into the overall master or something. It sounds like someone's mixed this in a very bass prominent room, so they've taken all the bass out of it, which almost sounds like it's been mixed for vinyl, which backs up the 60s Beach Boys kind of era of sound quite effectively. But there were just some you know, when you get that low quality MP3, you get those weird kind of phasing things,
Okay.
or is this,
Okay.
or as if everything was recorded at like 24-bit rather than 48,
Okay.
or 22-bit rather than
Yep.
sample rate of
Yep.
22.
We know
not
what you mean.
quite
You mean
8-bit.
megahertz rather than bits. Yep.
Yeah, and rather than like 16 bits rather than 24. But I've got dirt on my sleeve apparently. That's a bleach stain, Marlon. Cheers for pointing that out. Distracting me. I see what you did there. But, I mean, I'd like to see what the mix session was, because everything's just a bit thin and a bit weak sounding, which suggests that it's been mixed in somewhere where there's loads of bottom end in the room, so they've overcompensated for it. And I just think all the problems probably stem from a listening environment, because everything
Right.
sounds weak and thin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know L's Nest is in the chat, so maybe they can elaborate a little bit on how they mixed and which speakers or headphones they used. It would be nice to know.
Absolutely.
And forgive me, I'm only playing bad cop because I was volunteered to play bad cop.
It's really L's Nest. It's good to see Ed's upset by having to give you negative feedback, and I want to touch on a couple of things. I don't think the SM58 was a problem. I don't necessarily think that you have the right kind of vocal to be using an SM58 for this kind of track, but it may be all that you've got. And that's maybe why you're using it, and in which case I think it sounded fine, and I think that's because you're a good vocalist, so you're probably going to be able to make a lot of mics just work for you, because you do have a nice sounding voice, and just very listenable kind of voice actually, and like the melodies.
I have a tip on that. If you are restricted to that SM58 and you want to go for the 60 vibes, you don't have to record like this, but you can also record a bit further away to make it a bit more roomy and a bit less direct.
But it sounds like it's been recorded like that already. It's really thin. This is what we call the proximity effect.
No,
if you
that's the same.
in, you get the low end, but this track sounds like it's been recorded like that, and then just gained up later.
I just want to interject here. We don't know that L's Nest are going for a 60s vibe. I mean, this is something.
But we've decided that they should.
Okay.
Too much evidence to suggest otherwise.
I do agree. Look, I think you can have a pseudo 60s vibe. I think you are still releasing music in the 2020s, and so I do think that you could have more low end. Now they were using playing the bass on the keyboard. I'm just trying to see what you were using in my notes here for the bass. Not quite sure. Perhaps you can let us know, El. But it could be an EQ thing. It could be just the source sound. I mean, before you go EQing, always work with a good source to begin with, something which is largely delivering the sound that you kind of want, and then EQ afterwards. But look, I really enjoyed the song. I do think this is a little bit harsh. I do think you should re-record it. I think that the song is a good enough song to bother with re-recording. So it's actually a compliment, if that makes sense, Elsness. And the reason I think you should re-record it, or at least some parts of it, or maybe the guitars, is because I think there were some timing issues in it, especially noticeable at the beginning, where the guitars are playing kind of arpeggios, and it's a weird thing. Like, you don't want to, if you're playing along with a metronome or programmed drums, it can be very hard with a guitar that you can get a little bit too mechanical. You still want it to kind of groove and flow, but yeah. Now, timing issues that doesn't necessarily imply that as a musician you've got timing issues. It can be very much about headphone mix while you're tracking. You've got to get that right, and it's a balance. As I say, you don't want it to be too loud, your drums or click or whatever you're playing along with, but too quiet, and you can easily slip in and out. I'm kind of a little bit surprised that Ed didn't pick up on that, as what I was expecting the drummer to say. So maybe they weren't as obvious as I thought they were. But yeah, I reckon. I'm trying to say this as a compliment. It's a good song. you can all obviously play. You've got storytelling, all those boxes, tick, 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 tick. I think you should have a go at it again and tidy up a couple of things here and there, and maybe take care of that low end a little bit. Just get a bit in there. Any last words on this, guys? I'll let you be bad and good cops all at the same time.
Regarding recording, depends how you record and what you are used to with playing when you're playing the guitars. I have noticed on a few occasions that guitarists can respond really badly on recording with headphones when they are used to play with an amp which is placed a few meters further away than normally. It really affects that timing. So that is something which you can look into if that is something during recording.
Ed, anything else there? Did you notice those timing issues, or was it just me?
Yeah, but I was more put off by the sound of it.
Okay.
Two things. One, I would say I would so much rather have a wonderfully written song like this and rather listen to a wonderfully written song than a badly written song that's been well produced. So in terms of what Mike said, absolutely re-record this, because it is genuinely a great song. And I think actually I'm going to go out there and say probably the best I've heard on this show in terms of songwriting. So well done on that regard. And in terms of timing and stuff, the quantizing stuff, the reality is everyone needs quantizing. Even the great session players realistically are quantized at some point in the studio. And because we are so used to just, metronomic timing now, because everything on the radio is quantized, because it gives it that professional finish. So quantizing everything from drums, bass, guitar, so all fits nicely, is the difference between a great production, a good production, and a professional production, in my opinion. So don't be afraid to quantize.
Yeah, and just on the timing issues, we can all be guilty of it at times as well. Just, I just want to sort of trying to reassure Elsness a little bit there that we've all done it. We've all recorded a track and afterwards gone, oh, I was a bit off there. And I've released things and not noticed it until after I've released them sometimes, that actually something was a bit off.
Practice as well. I will put my hand up and say that every drum track I've put out has been quantized, because that's like I said, it's the difference between it being good and great. Now with vocals, when I started singing, my timing, given I'm a drummer, was strangely horrific. And it's taken me a couple of years. I was tracking yesterday and I have to say my timing was pretty damn good with myself, partly because I know the song and partly because I know how to harmonize with myself. But I've just found a groove now. But that's taken 2 years of actively recording my vocals to get good at that.
Yep. And another thing on that, it's not just timing in terms of is it correct, in terms of with the click. It's is it now correct with all of the other instruments which have since been added to the track, since you started recording the track. What I'm trying to say here is that I'd be interested in where that guitar, in what stage of the process it was recorded with Earl's Nest. Was it the first thing? Was it only playing against a click track? Because sometimes, I will find playing guitar against a click track is much more difficult than playing it against the drums, which are now there or what have you. So it may be worth, sometimes what I'll do, and almost always do, is put down guide tracks with guitars and things like that, then come back later and just re-record it once all the other things are there, especially when it's very rhythmic, like it was an arpeggio there at the beginning, which you want the timing to be good on that. But anyway, enough on that. Thank you so much for submitting the track, Earl's Nest, and I just want to reiterate some nice songwriting there, which is the basis of everything as far as I'm concerned. If you haven't got a good song, I don't care if you've got a good singer, good performers or anything, without a good song, you've got absolutely nothing. So I want to encourage you there for that. Guys, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. I haven't had you on here for ages, Marlon. Actually, I had Ed on here by himself last time without you. Got to say, show wasn't
Best show
nearly as-
ever.
It wasn't nearly as good.
Come on, I say everything Marlon says anyway normally when I'm not backed up.
Yeah, he said all your things for you, Marlon, when you weren't here anyway. But yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I haven't even had a chance to wish you guys Happy New Year. But, you know, I'm looking forward to
Happy
working
New
with
Year.
both of you as the year progresses. I'm eager to see both of your channels grow and grow and grow during the course of 2022. And
Mine's only growing sideways.
and
Oh, wait.
very much
He's
look forward to
reverting.
Indeed. Very much look forward
Imploding.
to seeing you both again soon. And of course, look, let's make sure, I'm going to say it here, I'm going to put down my pledge. We are going to do featured artist live featuring some of the actual guests' music at some point. So I think it would be fun if Marlon and Ed do a critique on Pete and Jade's music, for example. That would be good. Let's
Oh, that will
cue
be
that up.
easy.
Okay. Thank you
Just
so
throw it
much
down.
again. Thank you so much again to everyone who's been in the chat. I know loads of you have been here all the way through. That's always a wonderful thing. Thank you so much for your support in doing that. Thanks again to Mimo Japan and Doug for being the moderators. I don't think you would have had to moderate anything. If you could moderate the guests, then maybe you would have done some of that during the show. But anyway, thank you so much for doing that for us. It's always appreciated. Love to see Jade here. I know you've been listening while you've been working, Jade, as well. And everyone who's been here, if you're watching on the replay, don't forget to give us your thoughts on the music that you're hearing during the show. And to everyone who's entered their music, thanks for being good sports and taking the rough with the smooth in terms of the comments from my guests today. So I will be seeing you next Thursday. I will be in the live chat next Thursday. It is a show which has been pre-recorded. I've got 3 songs from the Cakewalk community queued up, already listened to them, already got my sort of thoughts on them, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week for that. And I'm going to leave the final word of the show to a wonderful, wonderful person who's been awesome today, and his name is Mr. Ed Thorne.
Right. I think as we've iterated in this session, a good song far outweighs any music production, but music production does help you translate that message. We are in an incredibly competitive world at the moment with everything just having to sound amazing, and the new perceived standard for everything, photography, films, music, is just so impossibly high to achieve. Don't compare yourself to that. Just make sure you were better than yesterday.